Family relationships are supposed to be built on love, trust, and unconditional support. But what happens when the people who are supposed to protect us become the ones who hurt us the most? Parents hold a unique place in our lives. They shape our world, influence our beliefs, and in many ways define what love means to us. But when a parent chooses someone else over their own child, the pain cuts deeper than words can express. Today on AGS Stories, we're diving into a story about a mother's shocking betrayal, the devastating consequences of abandonment, and a daughter's journey to find self-worth without her mother's approval. Imagine being forced out of your own home, only to have the person who pushed you away come crawling back years later. Not out of love, but out of regret. Would you forgive them? Or would you walk away forever? This is a story of loss, healing, and the complicated road to forgiveness. Let's get into it. Imagine being replaced by your own mother, watching her push you aside for kids she barely knows. And years later, she suddenly wants to come back, begging for forgiveness. That's my story. My name is Alyssa, and when I was 19, my world fell apart. My mom, Catherine, met a man named Greg, and within months, everything changed. At first, I was happy for her. She had spent years raising me on her own, working 2 jobs, sacrificing so much. She deserved love, but I never thought loving someone else meant forgetting about me. At first, it was little things. Greg's kids, Emma and Dylan, always came first. Mom would cancel our dinner plans to cook for them. She'd spend hours helping them with school projects, but barely asked me about mine. Then it got worse. One night, I came home from my part-time job and found my bedroom emptied. My bed? Gone. My posters? Disappeared. My things? Stuffed into a few garbage bags in the hallway. Confused, I asked her what was happening. Her answer? Greg's kids needed more space. You understand, right? I didn't understand. I stood there, waiting for her to tell me she was joking. That my mom, the woman who once swore I was her world, wouldn't just shove me aside like I was nothing. But she did. And when Greg suggested I move out completely, she didn't hesitate. She agreed. You're an adult now, Alyssa. It's time you start taking care of yourself. Those were the last words she said before she turned away. Just like that, I was on my own. Fast forward 6 years. I built a life for myself. I worked hard, struggled, survived, and then, out of nowhere, she reached out. She's sorry. She wants to fix things, but where was she when I needed her? So now, I need to know, should I forgive her? Or should I let her live with the choices she made? Tell me, what would you do? I used to believe my mom would always be there for me. She wasn't just my mother. She was my best friend, my protector, the person I could always count on. Until one day, she wasn't. It started when she met Greg. Greg was charming, successful, and well-liked. He had a way of making people feel special, like you were the most important person in the world when he spoke to you. And for my mom, that attention was intoxicating. At first, I was happy for her. After everything she had been through, she deserved love. I wanted her to be happy, but I never thought her happiness would come at the cost of losing me. At first, it was the little things. Movie nights got canceled, so she could have dinner with Greg and his kids. I'd come home from school to find them all watching my favorite shows without me. She started missing my soccer games, forgetting the little traditions we had. But I told myself it was okay. She's just excited about this new relationship, I reassured myself. But then it got worse. One day, I came home from work and found Emma and Dylan sitting at our kitchen table, eating my favorite snacks. The ones my mom always bought just for me. It stung, but I didn't say anything. Then my birthday came. I waited all day for her to say something. A call, a text, anything. But nothing. That night, I came home to find balloons, a cake, and music playing in our living room. My heart leapt for a second, until I saw the banner. Happy birthday, Dylan. My chest tightened. I turned to my mom, waiting for her to realize what had happened. But she just laughed, ruffling Dylan's hair. She had completely forgotten my birthday. Still, I swallowed the hurt. I told myself I was being dramatic, that things would get better. I was wrong. One evening, I came home to find my bedroom door wide open. My stomach dropped. Something fell off. I stepped inside and froze. My bed was gone. My posters were ripped down. My belongings? stuffed into trash bags in the hallway. Panic surged through me. I ran to the living room where my mom was sitting with Greg. "Mom, what happened to my room?" She barely looked up. "Greg's kids needed more space," she said, her voice casual, as if she had just told me the weather. I blinked, trying to make sense of her words. "More space? But where am I supposed to sleep?" She sighed, finally looking at me. "You understand, right?" My throat tightened. No, I didn't understand. This was my home, the place I grew up. How could she do this to me? That's when Greg spoke. "You're almost an adult, Alyssa. Maybe it's time you learn some independence." I turned to my mom, waiting for her to defend me, to say something, anything, that would tell me she still cared. Instead, she nodded. "You're old enough to handle yourself, sweetheart." That was it. That was the moment I realized I wasn't her priority anymore. Within a week, I was gone. No savings, no plan, just a couple of trash bags with my belongings and a heart full of betrayal. I remember standing outside the house for the last time, my fingers gripping the straps of my backpack. I wanted her to stop me, to call my name, to tell me this was all a mistake. But she didn't. She just watched from the window as I walked away. I spent the next few years struggling to survive. I crashed on friends' couches, worked 2 jobs just to afford rent in a rundown apartment, and spent nights crying myself to sleep. It was hard. It was lonely. But I survived. Fast forward 6 years. I built a life for myself. I worked hard, pushed through the pain, and eventually I made it. I had a career, a home, a life. I had finally moved on, or at least I thought I had. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message from her. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. It had been years since I heard from her. Years of silence. Years of wondering if she ever thought about me. And now, "I miss you. I'm so sorry for everything. Can we talk?" I felt my stomach twist. She wanted to fix things. She wanted a second chance. But where was she when I needed her? Where was she when I was sleeping on an air mattress in a freezing apartment, trying to figure out how to pay for my next meal? Where was she when I sat alone on my birthdays, pretending it didn't hurt? Now, she wanted back in my life. And I don't know what to do. So now, I need your advice. If you were in my shoes, would you forgive her? Or would you let her live with the choices she made? Tell me, what would you do? I knew my story would get a reaction, but I wasn't expecting this much engagement. Thousands of comments flooded in, some filled with anger, others with understanding. Some of you told me to cut her off forever, while others believed in second chances. Honestly, I feel torn. I spent 6 years learning how to live without her. I had to teach myself how to survive, how to be strong, how to build a life from nothing. I've carried the pain of that betrayal for so long. And now, suddenly, she wants to be a mother again? But am I being too harsh? Let's check out some of the top comments from you guys. Speech Balloon at Real Talk Tina. She didn't care about you then. She only cares now because she has no one else. People like that don't change. She didn't miss you. She lost her safety net. Don't fall for it. Reading this comment made my stomach twist. It's a harsh truth I've been trying to ignore. If Greg and his kids were still in her life, would she have ever reached out to me? Or is she only coming back now because she has no one else? That question haunts me. Speech Balloon at Second Chances 42. I believe in forgiveness, but she needs to earn it. You don't just get to walk back into someone's life like nothing happened. If she's truly sorry, she'll understand that she has to prove it. This one really got to me. I don't want to hold on to hate. I don't want to be someone who carries resentment forever. But does forgiveness mean letting her back into my life? Or does it just mean letting go of the anger while still keeping my distance? Speech Balloon at Never Again 98. She replaced you once. Who's to say she won't do it again? If another guy walks into her life, will she push you aside all over again? Some people never change. That's the fear that keeps me up at night. If I let her back in, how do I know she won't do it again? How do I trust that she won't just leave the moment someone else becomes more important to her? Some of you believe in second chances. Some of you think I should shut the door for good. And honestly, I don't know what to do. After reading your comments, I realized there was only one thing left to do. I had to meet with her. I didn't know what to expect. Would she apologize? Would she make excuses? Would she even recognize the damage she had caused? Or worse, would she try to manipulate me into feeling guilty? The thought of facing her after all these years made my stomach twist, but I couldn't keep running from it. If I was ever going to find peace, I needed answers. So, I agreed to meet her. We met at a small cafe downtown, one of those quiet places where people come to disappear into their coffee cups and pretend they're not drowning in their own thoughts. When I walked in, I spotted her immediately. She looked different, older, tired. Her once perfectly styled hair was streaked with gray, and there was a heaviness in her eyes I had never seen before. For a brief second, I felt something, pity maybe, but I pushed it down. She was the one who threw me away. She was the one who decided I wasn't enough. And now here she was asking for a second chance. I sat down, my heart pounding in my chest. She reached for my hands, but I pulled away. I wasn't ready for that. She took a deep breath, her voice shaky. "Alyssa, I made mistakes, but I miss you. Can we be a family again?" For years, I had imagined what it would feel like to hear her say those words. I thought it would bring relief. That maybe, just maybe, it would fill the hole she left in my heart. But all I felt was emptiness. I studied her face, searching for something real, some proof that she actually regretted what she had done. "You miss me?" I repeated, my voice calm but sharp. She nodded, reaching for me again. "Of course I do. Every day." I hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in my mind since the moment she contacted me. "If Greg and his kids were still in your life, would you have reached out?" Silence. Her lips parted slightly, as if she was about to speak. But then she stopped herself. I watched as her eyes flickered with hesitation. She looked away, focusing on something, anything other than me. And that was my answer. She wasn't here because she regretted losing me. She was here because she had lost them. A cold wave of disappointment washed over me. I wasn't her first choice. I never was. I was the backup plan. The person she thought she could return to now that she had no one else. For a split second, I considered lying to myself. I could have convinced myself that maybe she did care. Maybe she had changed. But I refused to make excuses for her anymore. My entire childhood, I spent trying to be good enough for her love, trying to prove that I was worthy of her attention. And yet, the moment someone else came along, she threw me away like I was nothing. Now, years later, when she finally realized that love isn't unconditional when you keep betraying the people who give it to you, she wanted back in. But did she want me? Or did she just want to fill the empty space in her life? I took a deep breath, steadying my voice. "I don't think you miss me, Mom." Her forehead creased. "Of course I do. I think you miss having someone who cared about you. Someone who wouldn't walk away. But that's not love. That's just regret." She blinked rapidly, shaking her head. "No, that's not true. I was scared, Alyssa. I made mistakes, but You didn't make mistakes. You made choices. You chose Greg. You chose his kids. You chose to forget about me." Tears welled in her eyes, and for a brief second, I almost caved. But then I remembered every birthday spent alone, every holiday where I pretended I didn't care, every moment I had to teach myself how to survive without a mother. And I knew I couldn't do it. Not again. I stood up, pushing my chair back. Her hands trembled as she reached for me one last time. "Alyssa, please. I'm still your mother." I swallowed hard. "Yeah, you are." I took a deep breath, letting the words settle. "But you were supposed to be my mother back then, too. And when I needed you most, you weren't." She opened her mouth to respond, but I didn't wait to hear it. I turned around and walked away. This time, I was the one leaving. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Now, I need your thoughts. If you were in my shoes, would you have given her another chance? Or did I do the right thing by walking away? Tell me, what would you do? After sharing my decision to walk away, I was blown away by the flood of comments. Some of you agreed with me, saying I did the right thing by protecting myself. Others thought I should have given her one last chance, at least to see if she had really changed. And honestly, I'm still processing it all. I won't lie. Walking away wasn't easy. A small part of me wanted to believe her, to hold on to the idea that maybe, just maybe, she really did regret everything. But deep down, I knew that regret wasn't the same as love. She didn't come back because she missed me. She came back because she had lost everything else. That realization still hurts. But at the same time, I feel lighter. For years, I carried the pain of her betrayal like a weight I couldn't put down. But now, for the first time, I feel like I can finally let go. But I know not everyone agrees with my choice. Here are some of your top comments. Speech Balloon at Heart of Gold 88. If she truly loved you, she wouldn't have waited years to reach out. Parents don't just forget their kids unless they choose to. She made her choice. Now she has to live with it. This comment really stuck with me. Because it's true, parents don't forget their kids. They don't just stop loving them, even when they make mistakes. But she didn't just make a mistake, she abandoned me. And she only came back when it was convenient. Speech Balloon at Forgive But Verify. Help her, but don't let her back in too easily. Make her prove it. If she really cares, she'll fight for a relationship with you. I see where this person is coming from. And I'll be honest, I did wonder if I should have given her some kind of test. Maybe see if she was willing to put in the work to rebuild our relationship. But after everything she put me through, should I have to test my own mother to see if she cares? Shouldn't that be something I already know? Some of you suggested giving her a chance to prove herself. And honestly, that might just be what I do. I met with her one last time. This time, I wasn't looking for closure. I wasn't looking for apologies, excuses, or even an explanation. I had already decided that my life would move forward, with or without her. But I also knew that walking away with resentment wasn't the answer. So I offered her a choice. If you really want to fix things, show me. I didn't offer her money. I didn't invite her into my home. Instead, I gave her a way to earn my trust back. Let's start small, I told her. Calls, meetups, but no expectations. She was silent at first. I could see the hesitation in her eyes. Maybe she expected me to crack under the weight of emotion and let her back into my life like nothing ever happened. But that wasn't going to happen. Her first reaction? Anger. So, after all these years, you're going to make me prove something to you, she snapped. I'm your mother. You should just forgive and forget. And that's when I knew she wasn't really sorry. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me that used to depend on her. The daughter who would have done anything to make her proud. But that girl didn't exist anymore. So, I walked away. For days, I waited for the guilt to hit me, to feel regret, to wonder if I had made a mistake. But it never came. Instead, I felt light, free in a way I had never felt before. I wasn't carrying the weight of waiting for my mother's approval anymore. I wasn't waiting for her to see my worth. I had already proven to myself that I was enough without her validation. But that didn't mean I wanted to hold on to resentment. Holding on to anger only keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. And I wasn't about to let her decisions shape my future any longer. So, I chose to let go. Not to welcome her back, not to pretend like nothing happened, but to free myself from the pain she caused. And as strange as it sounds, that was the moment I found peace. Months passed, and my life kept moving forward. I threw myself into my work, my friendships, and my own happiness. I stopped thinking about what I lost and started appreciating what I had built. Then one day I got a message. It was from my mom. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I understand now that I have to earn your trust back. If you ever want to try again, I'll be here. I stared at the screen for a long time. This was different. For the first time, she wasn't demanding. She wasn't angry. She was ready to do the work. So, cautiously, I replied, we can start small, no expectations, no rushing, just small steps. And surprisingly, she followed through. She started calling, not to talk about herself, but to listen. She asked about my life. She started remembering important dates. And for the first time in years, she showed me that she was willing to put in effort. It wasn't an instant fix. It wasn't magic. But it was something, and slowly, over time, our relationship began to heal. Rebuilding trust wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Over time, I realized that my mother wasn't just the woman who abandoned me. She was also a flawed, broken person who had made terrible choices. And while that didn't excuse what she did, it helped me understand that she, too, was learning how to be better. I set clear boundaries, and she respected them. I kept my expectations realistic, and she met them. And somewhere along the way, we found a way back to each other. We would never be the same mother and daughter we once were. But maybe that was okay, because in the end, we both grew into better versions of ourselves. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a choice in our relationship. Not out of obligation, but because I wanted to. So, here we are. I know not everyone will agree with how I handled things. Some of you will say I should have cut her off completely. Others will say I should have forgiven her right away. But the truth is, there's no perfect answer. Sometimes people do change, but it has to be their choice, not yours. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over pain. And for me, this was the happy ending I never expected. Tell me, would you have given her a second chance? Or would you have walked away for good? As I step into 2025, this story isn't just something from my past. It's a lesson that continues to shape who I am. The biggest thing I've learned? Self-worth isn't about how others treat you. It's about how you allow yourself to be treated. For years, I thought if I could just be more patient, more forgiving, more understanding, then maybe my mom would come back to me on her own. I believed that if I was good enough, she would choose me. But that's not how love works. Real love isn't conditional. It isn't something you have to earn by sacrificing your happiness. I also learned that forgiveness and reconciliation are two different things. You can forgive someone without giving them a place in your life. You can release the weight of the past without reopening a door that once led to pain. Forgiveness is about healing yourself, not fixing the person who hurt you. At the same time, I realized that people can change, but only if they want to. My mom didn't get a free pass. She had to show me, through time and effort, that she was capable of being in my life without causing harm. And when she finally proved she was ready, I let her back in, not because I had to, but because I chose to. So if you're struggling with a broken relationship in your life, whether it's with a parent, a friend, or even yourself, ask yourself this. Are they truly sorry, or are they just lonely? Do they regret what they did, or do they regret losing their power over you? Because in the end, you deserve love that doesn't require proof of your worth. Now I want to hear from you. Did I make the right choice by giving my mom a second chance? Would you have done the same? Or do you think I should have walked away for good? What would you have done in my place? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And before you go, what should my next step be? Should I continue rebuilding this relationship? Or should I still be cautious? Let me know what you think. If you love stories like this, hit subscribe for more real-life betrayals, unexpected twists, and life lessons. See you in the next one.